Hey guys, it is Carl Brown from GuitarLessons365.com. Have a beautiful technique that I want to show you how to do today. It's not my term. This term, I believe, I don't know if he coined it or not. I first heard it from Ted Green, the late great Ted Green. If you don't know who he is, he's a great jazz guitarist, all-around guitarist. He can do anything. That I was fortunate enough to study with myself. But he has a great website, by the way, too, that keeps his teachings alive. A lot of his old students post up stuff. It's tedgreen.com. I'll leave a link. And you'll see a lot of cool stuff that he did with this technique with harmonics, mainly with harmonics, like harp harmonic technique. I'm not using any harmonics there. I'm using this technique, just everything fretted notes and open strings. Now, what I mean by sustained scales is that we are still playing a basic scale. So what you heard me open the video with was an E minor scale. But we play that in a certain way where it allows you to sustain the notes together. So it creates this large, still the sound of E minor, but it gives you this full, broad kind of harmony that can be based off of any scale or mode that you want. And it sounds like this. Instead of playing this, you've got this. So very cool technique. You can grab the tab and the link below so you can follow along with the lesson easier. And please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do, and ring that little notification bell so you know when I release a new video. And check out my Guitar Academy at GuitarLessons365.com. I've got thousands of people who joined it already, and it's a great place for guitar players. So let's get to this technique. The magic of sustaining scales is what Ted Green used to call them. So let's start here with that E minor thing that I showed you, and I'll show you some other scales that you can do so you can get creative and do your own things with it. So basically, I'm just trying to hold the notes and figure out ways of playing them so I can sustain them. Obviously, we can't sustain every single note in the scale together. We don't have enough really strings on the guitar anyway, and that'd be very uncomfortable to play anyway. But as long as you can hold it for a couple of notes, every single new note that you play, it's going to sound great. So I started here with just this note here. I did add the low E string in there with it, but you see the first example in the tab. I'm going to take this basic E minor scale. So I'm going to play the first two notes just like we had, but I'm going to let them sustain together. And then I'm going to move that G note over to the open G string. And herein lies the key to the technique, is to be able to use open strings to kind of move around. The open strings are going to allow you to move to different positions so you continue the scale. So the scales that you're going to want to use, at least you're going to want them to have, if you're looking at the highest pitch 4 strings, so say D to the high E string, you want those notes, the D, the G, the B, and the E, you want them to be in that scale. So that's one little key that you're probably going to do, or you can retune and do some cool Celtic stuff with it. So we have basically this so far. So those are the first 3 notes of the scale. E, F sharp, G, and then you'll see that now with that G still ringing, I'm going to go over and I'm going to play the A on the D string, and then that allows me the next note in the scale is B, so I'm going to use I got an open B string. So we have this. So it's cool to, if it happens to be an E, to let the low E ring with it. Alright, so then we can pretty much get the whole rest of the scale without moving. It's a bit of a stretcher. So we have, so after open B, we're going to play the C on the G string, and then the D on the B string. Now if you want, you don't have to keep holding that A. And you just play it like that if you want. So it is. So it still sounds good. You're holding enough notes together. Then the high E string is the last note. We made it to the octave of the E. So and then you just descend. So if you can make those notes sustain, that's your goal here, is to make each note hold as long as possible. So this is a big chord form that I'm holding there, but I walked into the chord. I didn't hold the entire chord down at once. So I had this pinky here, then I add the next note, and then the next. So I didn't have to grab all three like that. So as long as you kind of walk into the chords like that, it makes it a lot easier. So let's change the chord. We have different minor scales, right? Let's change it to melodic minor. So melodic minor, if you guys don't know, you would if you remember my academy. It's basic music theory. But we have, that's a natural, E natural minor that I was playing there. So melodic minor though, the last two notes in the scale, the C and the D, are raised to C sharp and D sharp. So it's basically the first half of the scale is a minor scale, the second half is a major scale. So that sounds like this. All right, so what we're going to do now is change those two notes in the little pattern that we had. So this will be example number 2. So we just, same at the beginning. And then after that open B, instead of the notes being back here, 5 and 3, we're going to have 6th fret there on the G, 4th fret on the B. It's a little bit easier to play. So pretty cool sounding. So that's the E melodic minor scale. Or we can play it like the old guys from 200 years ago, but melodic minor up, natural minor down. So that's got a nice tone to it. So it doesn't always have to have the low E ring in there. So let's do another one. Let's do one that's a little bit harder to play. It will be C major scale. So I'll start here on this C right here, and it'll sound like this. So those are some big stretches there. But anyway, how did I piece that together? It's just a normal C major scale that you probably already know. That's how I went up to that G. So we're just playing it, this C, and then I know I have an open D string. And then I can play the E on the A string, and this is a huge stretch. But I liked it because I can do those 3 notes and let them all ring together. And I can hold that C a little longer, which is the root of the scale, so you want that. Alright, so if you could do this, we have that open D, then that 7th fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the D, and then the open G, which sounds really nice. So that open G gives us the ability now to shift up. So that open string is where you have the time to move up here to this A here. Alright, from there, the A and then the open B. Whenever you can use an open string, use it. Because not only does it make it easier to play, but it actually sounds cooler too. And then we have that B to the C. C, it's the 10th fret of the D string. Then the D, another stretch, I know. You gotta work for it, man. So we have this, and then I kind of run out of real estate here. I'm running out of open strings to use after I use that high E. So I stop there at the 5th, and then you just descend. So you can take something like that. That's example, the next example. But now you can also do, say you wanted to do a Lydian sound with that. So the only difference between a major scale and a Lydian mode is the 4th note in it is raised a half step. So go from C major to C Lydian, we basically have to take the 4th note, which is F, raise it to an F sharp. So all those Fs that we played will now be an F sharp. And then that same exact thing we just played, if we just move those Fs up to an F sharp, we'll have a Lydian quality instead of a major. some really cool sounds that you can do with it. So I just think you should just try to be creative with it. It helps to really, if you have a hard time navigating the fretboard and knowing the notes around, it really kind of works that muscle in your brain to really come up with these cool ways of playing these scales. And you know the next note that you got to do. You want to make sure it stays in the same octave, but take any kind of scale that you like, any kind of mode that you like, and then see if you can use a combination of open strings and fretted notes. Some crazy, you have to go from here, jump up here, or whatever, but it really creates a unique kind of harp-like sound to the guitar, and you can give it any quality you want. You just pick the scale and go. So I hope this will inspire you guys to create some cool stuff with it. I'll see you guys again soon for GuitarLessons365.com. Bye-bye.